Shark Week having come and gone to bring in Bafo ratings for the Discovery Channel once more, the public's appetite for shark-related entertainment is just as bloodthirsty as ever, including the latest sequel starring Jason Statham that sees the brute bald Brit again hunting down a prehistoric megalodon shark in Meg 2: The Trench. And with the Meg 2 holding up well at the box office, even with its expected bad reviews, we might be seeing the Meg franchise now taking the place of another increasingly ridiculous shark franchise that began it all in 1975 with Steven Spielberg's revolutionary blockbuster, Jaws, and ended it all 12 years later in 1987 with the infamously baffling sequel, Jaws: The Revenge. With Universal Pictures in financial freefall after the bombing of Howard the Duck, CEO Sid Sheinberg decided to once more tap the well of the Jaws franchise for a fourth entry that would help promote the new Jaws ride over at Universal Studios, while also ignoring the events of the critically derided Jaws 3D, with Lorraine Gary returning on behalf of her husband Sid Sheinberg as Ellen Brody, now facing that smiling son of a bitch herself after Roy Scheider refused to return as Chief Brody, with the immortal quote, "Satan himself could not get me to do Jaws Part 4.
Because I don't intend to go through that hell again!"
And after the sequel was rushed into production to meet its summer 1987 release date, with Taking of Pelham 123 director Joseph Sargent now replacing Spielberg as director, Jaws: The Revenge opened wide only to get blown up at the box office against a little film called RoboCop, and bite down on a ripe 0% from the critics, with audiences so upset over the film's lackluster ending that Universal reshot it for European and home video distribution. But trust me, I am going to have plenty to say about this ending very soon. But for now, since I've already reviewed Jaws 3 for this show back in 2016, I would say the time is finally right to find out how this supposedly even worse sequel closed up the beaches of Amity Island for good. And yes, JoBlo subscribers, you may best know this particular sequel for its often parodied tagline,
"This time, it's personal."
So yeah, the events of those last two movies, that didn't mean shit to anybody. But this time though, it's personal. It means something. It is for real. It's so personal we don't even need to properly use commas in our tagline, because we've already blown up the goddamn commas alongside the shark. But again, I will have much more to say about this movie's ending later. We're gonna need a bigger boat and a bigger keg before we chum down this round of the awfully good drinking game. Take a shot or drink as the film opens just as the last three did, from the POV of a hungry shark swimming the water to the tune of John Williams' iconic theme song, or as I like to call it, the theme from those 90s Corn Pops commercials.
I gotta have my pops.
Where should this new shark be hunting but in the waters of Amity Island after the family of the now deceased Chief Martin Brody, namely his widowed wife, Ellen, played again by Lorraine Gary, and his now grown-up son, Sean, played here by Mitchell Anderson, while his big brother Martin chats with them over the phone as they prepare for the holidays.
We're putting out cookies and a bottle of beer for Santa.
And yes, Jaws: The Revenge does count as a Christmas movie, as per the McLean Catwoman scale of summer blockbusters set at Christmas time.
Your grandmother is a slave driver. Hey, ask the big doctor about his job. Tough life, the Bahamian beach.
Will you shut the fuck up?
Not only is Sean Brody newly engaged, but he's also following in his dad's footsteps as a deputy for the Amity Police Department, who have hung up his dad's portrait on the wall in honor of him, with Roy Scheider making the same face of disgust he made when offered the scripts for Jaws 3 and 4. But while Deputy Sean has to go float out on a boat to dislodge a log that stuck out on a buoy, little does he know that he's now at the mercy of the dreaded Joneses, who is emitting blood from his mouth already before he even chomps down on the Sean's arm, tucks Sean's arm underneath his shirt and spills some fake blood onto him to pretend he chomped his arm. But Sean's cries for help cannot be heard over the children's choir at this Christmas pageant. I'm kidding, they can hear him just fine. They just want this character to die already as much as I do. And with another bout of choppy editing, the shark has begun his bloody revenge against the Brody family, and Ellen identifies her son's remains the next day.
I thought you'd want them.
Oh hell yeah, Ellen Brody's gonna use her son's gun and shoot off a round of bullets into the ocean in his honor, just like his father would have wanted. Michael flies back home from his research job in the Bahamas to attend his brother's funeral, now played not by Dennis Quaid, but Lance Guest of Halloween 2 and The Last Starfighter. and reunites not just with his mom, but also Mrs. Kintner of the first movie, who's apparently inducted Mrs. Brody into their grieving mothers club. As nice as it is to see her and other Jaws alumni popping back up, it's tragic to realize that this character who had a tragically murdered child is sharing a scene here with Michael's daughter Thea, played by soon-to-be tragically murdered child star Judith Barcy.
Uncle Sean is dead, you know. Will he ever come back?
Whose fictional father here would serve as one of the girl's pallbearers a year after this film. Yeah.
It came for him.
What?
It waited all this time and it came for him.
What? Oh.
Okay, either Mama Brody is getting too deep into the QAnon forums again, or this sequel is really going to be predicated on the idea of a shark who may or may not be related to the dead sharks of Jaws 1 and 2, acting on a personal vendetta that a shark cannot have against the family of Martin Brody, despite his wife and kids having nothing to do with those sharks' deaths, and Martin Brody himself having died a year and a half prior from, I'm not kidding, a fear-induced heart attack.
Sharks don't commit murder. They don't pick out a person.
It picked out Sean. It killed your father.
Dad died from a heart attack.
He died from fear. The fear of it killed him.
You heard that right. The man who obviously overcame his fear of water and sharks in the first two films ended up getting killed off screen by his fear of water and sharks. What an underwhelming way to go for one of cinema's most likable lead heroes. Next thing you're gonna tell me that Quint actually turned out to be a Skrull. After Ellen breaks out into laughter at Sean's funeral, while having one of her many flashbacks to events from the far better first film that she wasn't even around to witness, Michael decides his mom could use some R&R by flying back with him and the family to spend the Christmas holiday at the very last place that a victim of shark-related trauma should go. The Bahamas, baby! Yes, come swim in our big, beautiful oceans, the sights and sounds of which will only exacerbate your recent trauma and give you nightmares of being attacked by the same shark that killed your poor innocent son. Don't worry though, you can let out all of your sobs of grief while you go parasailing. This is when the legendary Michael Caine appears, in one of the many paycheck roles he's gladly accepted over his prestigious career, in the role of the Brody's friendly pilot, Hoagie, Alfred Pennyworth, Ebenezer Scrooge, Austin Powers' dad, and Hoagie.
What makes the plane go up and down?
Oh, that's easy. The houses get bigger.
And just wait till you find out who's playing Michael's scientific research buddy over in the Bahamas.
Michael! What the hell are you doing down there?
Oh no, David Diggs as Sebastian the Crab? No, that voice belongs to Mario Van Peebles. A few years before New Jack City would break him out as both actor and director, here playing this movie's Matt Hooper equivalent, Jake McKay.
You come back acting like a zombie. It's Christmas Eve. We're working overtime because of you. Hey!
Dude! 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 Dude.
With Van Peebles improvising most of his character's dialogue, as much as he obviously did for his shaky Jamaican accent.
We got a big fish down here, man.
Hey, man, I didn't mean to,
Move your ass, man! Michael!
Macaroni. Jamaica got the shark sled team. And though Michael constantly reassures his mother that there's no way the shark can swim to the Bahamas, Mother Brody remains ever vigilant against the threat coming for her family, even as she finds love with this mysterious pilot named Jersey Michael Caine. Hoagie.
Well, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that maybe there are other possibilities.
I know it's coming. I know it's coming.
And since it'll be a while before this shark can somehow swim from New England to the Bahamas without interruption over 2 to 3 days, let us instead focus now on the blossoming love between Ellen and Hoagie, with Michael Caine proving charming as ever in a throwaway role that allows him to tell all the colorful anecdotes about his adventurous life that he didn't get to tell to Master Wayne.
He said, I've left it in town. So I said, what are we going to do?
I was picked up by this tribe of headhunters, and they took me to see their tube.
Although the most colorful story that Michael Caine has about this movie is this legendary quote that's more fondly remembered than the movie itself.
One of the worst pictures I did was a picture, I think it was called Jaws 4.
The Revenge.
The Revenge, yeah. I was paid $1 million for 2 weeks' work. And with that money, I bought her the house. Someone said to me, I saw that Jaws 4. He said, it stinks.
It stinks.
I said, I haven't seen it. I said, but I've seen the house it bought my mother, and it's marvellous.
As for Lorraine Gary, for an actress who came out of an 8-year retirement for this movie on behalf of her CEO husband and would never act again after this, she holds her own well against Sir Michael in a performance that's reminiscent of what Hollywood's doing nowadays with such franchises as Scream, Halloween, and The Exorcist, re-examining the trauma that's experienced by these female survivors from famous horror movies. But just as Ellen dances her grief away at a local Junkaroo festival, Michael and Jake find themselves visited by you-know-who.
What's wrong?
So smart, me fake mustache.
Yes, folks, this movie is implying that Ellen Brody has a straight-up psychic link with this shark, which by the way looks particularly terrible in this sequel, even for a franchise that has never had much luck working with animatronic sharks. That thing is shedding enough microplastics into the ocean to kill off an entire species of fish. But much like the first film shot around the terrible-looking shark by focusing more on the excellent character and dialogue, Jaws 4 now focuses back on the far less compelling romance between Ellen and Hoagie. While they attend a casino with Michael, Jake, and their respective wives, Carla, played by Karen Young, and Louisa, played by Lynn Whitfield, where Michael seems uncomfortable with the prospect of Hoagie slipping his mom some of his 12-inch meat.
Mind if I cut in? Please, the world would be a better place if more sons danced with their mothers.
And this movie would be a better film if some sharks were to bust in from the ceiling right now onto the dance floor to start tearing people apart, limb from limb, and oh, who am I kidding? The majority of this movie is, in the words of a more recent Spielberg movie,
Boring as shit.
Most of the plot has Michael Brody acting petulantly upset over Michael Caine potentially being his new stepdaddy, while also bitching with his wife as she juggles her own career as an artist, preparing her new sculpture to be unveiled at the nearby.
Boring as shit.
Hey,
Don't come any closer.
I've always wanted to make love to an angry welder. I've dreamed of nothing else since I was a small boy.
I desperately want to make love to a schoolboy.
Oh my god, can we please focus our attention back towards the killer shark coming for you boring bastards, who we have just confirmed has telekinetic mind powers, the ability to pick out and track down its victims like the Terminator, and can swim all the way from the cold waters of New England to the warm oceans of the Bahamas in only a few days? I feel like that should be our top priority here, not Michael Brody's weird welding fetish. As for Mike's obsession with Hoagie, that plot point is far more fleshed out when you read the novelization for Jaws the Revenge, which is based off an earlier script draft and differs hugely from the final movie. Not only do we find out in this book that Hoagie's last name is Newcomb, but those boating trips he keeps making through the film are off to transport drugs for a local drug lord, because Hoagie is secretly working with the DEA to bring the drug baron down after his daughter died from overdosing on the baron's cocaine, as opposed to his own stash of mock cocaine. And while the novel ends amazingly with said drug baron falling from Hoagie's plane to get eaten up by the shark, the actual movie cuts this entire drug-running storyline down to only one line of dialogue.
What do you do when you're not flying people?
I deliver laundry.
So you're telling me that Michael Caine missed out on winning his first Oscar so he could film this turd of a movie, yet you can't even give him the awesome plotline where he goes back into badass Get Carter mode alongside a killer shark to bring down a drug smuggling ring that killed his daughter?
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
Fuck!
And even worse, they also cut out the explanation for the great white shark's vengeance-driven massacre, that the shark is being telekinetically controlled by a local witch doctor who has a bone to pick against the Brodies named Papa Jock. Not Papa John's, Papa Jock. It's not hard to see why that probably racist storyline also got deleted in the final movie to one line of dialogue.
Come on, you can't believe that voodoo.
But come on, how about this movie drops the formalities for once and gives us the drug-running, voodoo-powered version of Jaws 4 we all deserved, instead of yet again nostalgia-baiting back to an already referenced scene from the first movie, now done between Michael and his young daughter.
You don't know what it did to me. You look just like your father. Do you remember when you guys used to imitate him?
How can I not remember, Mrs. Brody? They just did that scene for us not 1 minute ago. This makes the Xfinity commercial that reunited Henry Thomas and E.T. look downright dignified by comparison. And the next scene, where the shark tries wrenching Michael out of a yellow submarine, is yet again calling back to the original, where Matt Hooper got attacked inside the cage. But now done far less suspensefully, with a shark that looks so fake, you can even see the gears underneath it in some 4x3 formatted versions of the film. Here's John. Oh, damn it! My excellent impression of Jack Nicholson in The Shining was foiled by this stupid ladder. Damn you, Michael Brody! I'll make your family pay for what your father did to my shark ancestors!
I'll get you, bitch!
But while Michael and Jake go back out to hunt for the shark the next day, Carla Brody is introducing her new sculpture at a ceremony next to the local beach. Yeah, I'm sure this'll go well. Where who should be speaking at the microphone but Mario Van Peebles' father, Melvin Van Peebles, himself a revolutionary black actor and director who collaborated often with his son before his death in 2021, as the local mayor who awkwardly attempts to tell some jokes.
Get to the point, man! As my wife now says.
Mario Van Peebles is off-screen somewhere, just pissed off that his dad decided that this role was the right time to introduce his Black Borat impression. Don't worry though, Richard Pryor is standing by as the next act, ready to deliver his far funnier impression of Sacha Baron Cohen's The Dictator. After a full hour of terminally boring backstory, we finally get near awfully good territory in the film's final half hour, with Michael and Jake's kids nearly meeting their end in the shark's mouth when it swims to the beach to feast on a human banana split.
Quick, Carla, try scaring the shark off by doing your Seagull impression.
Now it's finally up to Ellen Brody to suit up in her laser-powered shoulder pads and use her complete inexperience of either sailing or weaponry to take down the shark herself with some more nostalgia baiting.
Come and get me, you son of a bitch.
You son of a...
You son of a bitch.
While Michael attends to his traumatized family, realizing that not telling his family about the killer shark on their tail was probably a bad idea.
You knew? And you didn't tell us?
Where is my mother?
Why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you tell us?
What did you do?
Are we sure that we just can't bring Michael's wife along to scream at a frequency that'll blow up this shark without any help from explosives? Michael and Jake fly out with Hoagie to catch up with Ellen and help her defeat the shark, with some even more nonsense scientific explanations.
No, it's gonna come to the plane. It's attracted to the electromagnetic impulse of the metal on it.
Get the bloody hell out of here! Complain! Complain! Oh, shit!
Hey, now at least we know why they make you turn off your phones before your plane takes off, to prevent magnetically induced shark attacks in mid-air. Thankfully, Hoagie somehow makes it out of the sinking plane with his oil and peppers intact.
It wasn't easy, believe me. The breath on that thing.
Thanks to his instantly drip-drying shirt made of the same technology as Marty McFly's jacket. So Michael and Jake now plan to have the shark swallow an electrical transmitter that will drive the shark crazy. But just as Jake is able to get it into its belly, the shark is somehow able to float above the surface of the ocean and snatch Jake up into its titular jaws, while Michael screams out the name of his secret male lover. His oceanic research partner. This is when we finally reach one of the most insane climaxes in all of bad movie history, as Michael cranks up the transmitter inside the shark's belly and gives it the ability to goddamn roar. Roar! Yes, the shark just roared, people, and not just any roar. The same roar as the monster's pet dragon, which was used before that in a Tom and Jerry cartoon, and which the filmmakers had to use because the sound editor refused to make them a sound for a shark roaring, because he rightfully thought that idea was fucking stupid. Then Ellen has one last flashback to both her dead son and husband before steering the boat ahead into the shark's belly. And this is where you will get either one of two endings. If you saw the American theatrical cut that's aired on TV, it ends the same way that the novelization and the NES tie-in video game do. The shark is stabbed, he bleeds out to death, and with one final roar sinks to the bottom of the ocean. After which we cut to Ellen saying farewell to her son before flying back out with Jake's now widowed family, and Michael Caine flies his new sweetheart out on his muckle plane. The end. Or at least that was the end. Until Universal Pictures saw how pissed off audiences were at this week's Sauce ending. So they proceeded to call the cast and crew back 5 days after the movie hit American theaters to shoot new footage for the ending to be shown in European theaters and on home video, with this new ending now having the stab shark going out in the same explosive fashion as the last 3 sharks did. Despite no discernible explanation as to why the shark just blew the fuck up out of nowhere. No, it was not connected to the transmitter inside the shark's belly. No, Michael Caine did not call up Batman to bomb the shark with some of his bat shark repellent.
Holy sardine!
The shark really did just turn into a rubber bath toy for a millisecond before spontaneously combusting in a bloody mess, in much the same fashion that Chief Brody's heart also spontaneously combusted from shark trauma. Then we find our heroes swimming in front of an obvious blue backdrop straight out of the Truman Show to discover that Jake McKay has somehow survived his profusely bleeding shark wounds. Take that, guy from The Revenant.
What the hell are you doing alive, huh? I tell you, Uncle Jake's equipment don't crap on it. From now on, we gotta study snails, eh?
By all means, let's get back to studying snails. They're the one aquatic sea animal that moves as slow as this movie did. Then the rest of the ending proceeds as normal, with Ellen saying goodbye to her son with an obvious line of ADR.
Take good care of Jake.
I will.
Which now means that Jake's family is flying back to America with Ellen, even while Jake is left alone in the Bahamas to fight for his life in the hospital for the next few months. But while this amazingly terrible ending is now the official ending on Blu-ray and streaming, Universal has yet to release the deleted post-credits scene, which revealed that Matt Hooper was inside this fake shark all along.
Damn you!
Thus setting up Richard Dreyfuss's triumphant return to the role of Matt Hooper 23 years later in his cameo for Piranha 3D. But hey, still a better career choice for Richard Dreyfuss than doing Jaws the Revenge. If it weren't for this memorably bananas climax, Jaws the Revenge would rightfully be forgotten as one of the most boring and unnecessary sequels in movie history, which does nothing to necessitate making another movie about the Brody family and waste the energetic efforts of both Michael Caine and Mario Van Peebles to add some life here. Unless you want to see Spielberg's cinematic legacy get further spit on so soon after Jurassic World and Indiana Jones let us down, then stick with the still classic original, the decent Jaws sequel, or the amusingly bad 3D threequel before you swim into this failure of a franchise finale. But hey, with Hollywood so eager to revisit classic horror movies these days, we just may see the 90-year-old Michael Caine and 86-year-old Lorraine Gary reuniting to fend off a fishy new resident of their nursing home in Jaws the Retirement. This time, it's pathetic.
It stinks.
On the enjoyableness continuum scale from Bull to Bruce, Jaws the Revenge makes you wish those killer whales would specifically attack the yachts of the Universal executives who greenlit this piece of crap, and shows me the way to go home to a 4 out of 10. So Jaws gets 3 sequels, yet Spielberg gets not a single one for the adventures of Tintin. Truly, there is no justice in this world. I'm Jesse Shade for JoBlo.com, and thanks again for watching our show. If you like what you see, please subscribe to the JoBlo Originals channel. Tell all your friends who like this sort of content, and turn on the bell to receive notifications for all our latest videos. We are an independent company that appreciates all of your support. And if this movie could have really used something, it would surely be the late great Paul Reubens as Pee Wee Herman dubbing his scream over this shark's roar.